Hi guys, how are you keeping? Welcome to another edition of Beauty Breakdown. I used to do these videos back in the day and they kind of fell by the wayside. I think the last time I did them was about a year ago. I did one on mascara and hair curlers, but today I'm going to do one on concealers. This has been a highly requested video from me because I've been planning to do it for so long, so lots of people are just like wondering where this video is. What I usually do with these videos is I take a number of different products that are fit for the same purpose, that are from different brands and kind of high end, low end, and I tell you my thoughts on them. Would I recommend them to you, and do I think they're worth the money? So I'm going to start off with one from Rimmel, and this is called the Wake Me Up Anti-Fatigue Effect Radiant Glow Concealer. And this is actually quite nice because it has a doe foot wand, which I actually really like with these. Now this is, I'll just show you, that's what the consistency of it is. And when you rub it out, it kind of goes into nothingness. This is not a concealer I would use for under the eyes as it creases, and I wouldn't use it to try and conceal any sort of imperfections on your face, as once it's blended in with the finger, even with a tapping motion, you end up removing this product and you're left with kind of nothing on the face. So it doesn't do the job that it is, you know, designed for. Mine's in classic beige and I got it in a light colour because I wanted it for under the eyes, and when I placed it underneath the eyes it kind of creased on me, so I wasn't really feeling that. Like, nobody wants to look like they have baggy under eyes, so I would give that one a miss if you're looking to either conceal a zit or an imperfection, or you want to conceal underneath the eyes, because it doesn't do either. The next one is the Elizabeth Arden one, and this is the Ceramide Lift and Firm Concealer. This is in around the range of about €30, somewhere around 28 to €30, and it's nice. Again, it has the doe foot wand, and I don't know if you can see that. It's just a really tiny little doe foot wand. This is actually a really nice concealer, but once you kind of blend it out, it doesn't disappear into nothingness. The only thing I will say about this is it's not great for under the eyes, again, because it creases, but for covering any sort of imperfections I find that it does the job for me. I usually use it around my nose as well because I get a little bit red in that area. It can happen kind of in the winter time as well, and in that area it gets slightly dry. This concealer doesn't cling to dry skin like some other concealers do, and it actually kind of covers up that red area. But like I was saying, again, for under the eyes it tends to crease a little bit, so I would avoid that area with this. Next up is my NARS. This is the Radiant Creamy Concealer in Custard. This concealer is a pricey concealer. I think it ranges from somewhere around €32 to €35, depending on where you're buying it. I got mine in Brown Thomas and I think it was about €35. This is very good, in my opinion, for highlighting the face. So some concealers are used under the eyes to cover imperfections, others are used to highlight kind of areas. So you don't want to highlight a zit or, you know, things like that, like any sort of imperfections on your face, you don't want to highlight them. So I wouldn't use a concealer like this for it. Now you could get a darker shade kind of closer to your foundation and do that, but what I do with it is I buy it in a lighter shade and I highlight places on my face that I want to kind of brighten up. I tend to put this concealer sometimes on my Cupid's bow because I think it actually highlights it, and I always place it down the bridge of my nose. This concealer again can be used underneath your eyes, and it's actually quite nice underneath the eyes. It doesn't crease. I think it lasts all day. It doesn't last as long as the concealer that I use every day, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it lasts quite long. But I just prefer to kind of highlight down the bridge of my nose and on my Cupid's bow, like I said. And sometimes I bring this concealer onto my forehead just there and highlight those areas. I also use this concealer for highlighting underneath the brow bone. So, you know, it can be used for a range of different things. I think this is amazing quality, but for the price I would pass on it if it's completely and utterly out of your price range. Concealer that I actually found is quite similar to that NARS one is the Fit Me concealer from Maybelline, and I actually prefer this concealer to the NARS one. I just use the NARS one a little bit more frequently because it's always in my makeup bag, but I actually like this one just a teensy bit more. Again, I use it for the same things as I use the NARS one for, so for just down the bridge of my nose and highlighting kind of the top of my forehead or on my Cupid's bow. I feel like this is the only concealer out of the whole bunch, bar one, that I could wear on its own and just add a little bit of powder and I'm kind of good to go. Like, I feel like I could just place this under my eyes, place this on my imperfections and highlight anywhere on the face, and this actually works. This is number 20, so it's a little bit light, as you can see in the bottle. It is great for underneath the eye. It does not crease at all. I actually love this concealer. So for me, this concealer is just one of the best ones you can buy from the drugstore. I mean, there is nothing else that I like as much as this, and that's just my own personal preference. Again, guys, the numbers that I'm going to leave down here are for my score out of 5, so every single different concealer will be getting a different score. And again, guys, this is just my opinion on these concealers. I mean, you could be using one of these concealers in this video and I might like it and you might despise it, or opposite, you could love it and I think it is rubbish. But that is why the world is so unique and we are all different. And that's why there's so many concealers in the world, to help everybody get their perfect one. The next one I want to talk about is also from the drugstore, and this is from Collection. It's called the Lasting Perfection Ultimate Wear Concealer. This is another concealer that I love to use underneath the eyes and again down the bridge of the nose and stuff like that. I don't tend to conceal imperfections with this one. I don't know why. I just find that it doesn't work as well for me. Again, this has a doe foot wand on it. This is a super quick drying concealer. That's just what it looks like there. Sorry, I'm not showing you what all the concealers look like, but they're basically just concealers and they all are of a creamy consistency. But this is a super quick drying concealer. Of all the concealers bar one I'm going to talk about now next, this is kind of one of the thickest consistencies in concealing. So for that reason, underneath the eyes, it tends to crease just a teeny bit. I still like it for underneath the eye area, but it does crease slightly. So I would be aware of that whilst using it. Always set it as well. Some concealers, you need to set all concealers, but some you can get away with not doing it. This one you definitely can't. It will crease straight away. The next one I want to talk about is the Eraser Eye, and it's the Perfect and Cover Concealer from Maybelline, and it looks like this. It's the one with the little bobble head on the top. I'm sorry guys, but I hate this. I know loads of you out there absolutely adore this, but I hate it. I really do not like this concealer. I can't put my finger on it why I don't like it, but the fact that it creases underneath my eye area is just one of them, and it's too thin to use to conceal anything. I mean, you don't want something too thick or too thin when you're concealing an imperfection. You want something just kind of in the middle. You don't want to like feel like you're putting loads of product on, and then you don't want to feel like it's just sliding off your face and your imperfection is kind of showing up. I really just didn't like it. I couldn't find a use for it. I got through half of the bottle, so I did give it a good shot, and I'm still not feeling it. Besides this bobble thing, I mean, don't even get me started on that. I hate it. I mean, it is just home to like a bazillion bacterias in there, and I really don't feel like rubbing that on my under eye or putting it near a spot or anything like that, because I feel like it's going to just reinfect that area. It's just I just don't like this concealer, and I know lots of you do, but like, I'm sorry guys, my opinion. So the next concealer I'm going to talk about is from Elizabeth Arden. It looks quite similar to the Touche Eclat, and it is called the Flawless Finish Correcting and Highlighting Perfector. This has a little brush. It's the only one that I have that has a brush, and mine's in the colour number 1. It's a slightly salmon based colour. God, will it ever come out. This is kind of a salmon based colour. I don't know if you can see that there, but it has kind of a little bit of a pinky colour to this. I don't get this concealer, to be honest, because number 1, it does not highlight my under eye area. I just feel like it kind of, once it's blended out with the brush, it kind of goes to nothing, and I don't really get it. I feel the same way about this as I do about a Touche Eclat. I just don't get them as a product. I don't really like the Touche Eclat. I used to like it, but not anymore. And the Elizabeth Arden one is kind of like a spin-off of it, and I just don't really get it. It's a nice consistency concealer. It's not too thick, not too thin, so it's right in the middle. This is obviously not for use of concealing imperfections, because it's a highlighting and illuminating concealer, so it's going to kind of bring your attention to that area, so I wouldn't use it for that. But for under the eye, I just don't feel like it does anything. So that's just my own opinion. I really don't feel like it's highlighting or illuminating or doing what I want for a concealer for under the eye. I just don't feel like it does it, and it is way too pricey to justify buying this. I think it's in around the €30 mark again. I much prefer this concealer from Elizabeth Arden. It's just easier to use with its doe foot wand. Again, I don't really like the brush because it's connected to the concealer. I mean, there's no way of taking it off. What I usually do with a concealer is I will either apply it to, if it's underneath my eye, it doesn't really make much of a difference, but if I'm applying it to a spot and I want to conceal it, I'll actually take it off with my clean hands and I will rub it onto that area, because I just feel like it's just dirty, kind of putting more bacteria back into the product. But because this is connected with the brush, the bacteria are going to live in there, and I don't really like that. Final concealer I want to talk about is my all-time favorite concealer. So this is the MAC Prolong Wear Concealer, and there is nothing I prefer more than this concealer. This is definitely my favorite by far concealer of all the ones I've showed you today. This is definitely my favorite high-end one, whereas the Fit Me concealer is definitely my favorite kind of drugstore one. This is just so good at concealing underneath the eye area. If I did want to conceal a spot, I know this would just work perfectly, because what I would do is I put it on underneath my foundation. I have done this before, and because it's in a little pump, it's so easy to use, and you just pump a little bit onto the back of your hand and you just dab it onto the area you want to conceal. What I always do with it is I use it underneath my eye area to brighten up that area, and it just lasts all day. It doesn't crease on me, it doesn't wear off. I know when this is on, I feel like my makeup is set for the day and that it ain't budging, because underneath my eyes, like I said, they're my problematic area and I get like dark circles and stuff, but this covers them up quite nice and I don't have to look at them, and I just think it is amazing. It's around €28. I could be wrong because prices increase in MAC constantly, so I can't keep up, but it is my favorite concealer. So guys, I hope you found that video very interesting. There's not much you can say about concealers. They're either good or they're bad, and there's nothing really in the middle. You can't say it's an okay in the middle concealer, because it's either a good or a bad one. Like I was saying, I use concealer for two things. One for concealing underneath my eyes to kind of brighten up the area, and another one for concealing imperfections or zits or, you know, anything like that. So I want my concealer to have a consistency that's not too thick, not too thin, and then I also want it to not cling to any dry skin, or I don't want it to kind of highlight a spot or something like that. So I use concealer for different reasons. So just to sum that all up, my favourite concealer my favourite high-end concealer is the MAC Prolong Wear. My favourite one from the drugstore is the Fit Me concealer from Maybelline. These two guys in my collection, I feel like it is complete and I don't need anything else. I also like my NARS concealer and my collection concealer, and I feel like that is just enough. It may be even too much. I think if you were going with any concealers, just get these two. I think you'd be set for life. So I hope you enjoyed this beauty breakdown, guys, and I shall talk to you in my next video then. Bye guys!